My love for cars all started with one movie back in 2001. I remember seeing Brian O'Connor pulling up in his famous neon green Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I remember seeing Dominic Toretto racing his red Mazda RX-7, and I remember seeing the infamous hijacker Civics. After that, I was hooked. Little did I know, this was the beginning of an obsession, an addiction to Japanese cars. I would dream about driving those cars. I would play games like Need for Speed Underground, Gran Turismo, and Juiced, just so I can fulfill that dream of driving these amazing machines. So, if you can relate to my childhood and if you're anything like me, one thing is for certain. You love cars. More specifically, Japanese cars. But why is that? Well, Japan has produced some of the best cars the world has ever seen. During the 90s, there was the Toyota Supra, Nissan Skyline, Toyota MR2, Mitsubishi Evo, and many more. They were over-engineered and they were years ahead of their time. Like Mitsubishi 3000 GT's 4-wheel steering, and Honda's VTEC technology. And fast forward to today, Japanese car makers are coming back with amazing lineups like the Toyota GR86, Nissan Z, Honda Civic Type R, and speaking of Honda, there are even rumors that Honda is coming back with the new Honda Integra Type R. Happy days for us car enthusiasts, right? But have you ever wondered how it got to this point? How did Japan dominate the automotive industry? How can a country that got absolutely destroyed by war come back even stronger in just under 80 years? Join me as we uncover the rise of the Japanese car industry and how Japan took over the world with their cars. After the Second World War, Japan's automotive industry was on its knees. Allied forces purposely bombed Japanese factories and production facilities in an attempt to cripple the Japanese military, and it was devastating. Toyota almost went bankrupt in the late 1940s. Because of the destruction of the Japanese production facilities, by 1950, Toyota only produced around 300 cars per year. Back then, Toyota was actually known to copy designs from the West and other car manufacturers. During the 1950s, cars played a massive role in the US suburban expansion, so large highway infrastructures were built all over the US. The Eisenhower Interstate Highway infrastructure ran across the US, connecting most major cities. This made traveling across the country so much easier. So Toyota saw this as an opportunity to start selling their cars in the US because they knew most Americans will start using the highway infrastructures. In 1957, Toyota opened their first headquarters in California in an attempt to showcase their cars to the American public. However, there was a problem. Toyota back then wasn't the Toyota we know of today. Their cars were bad quality, unreliable, and too costly for the North American consumer. In fact, in 1957, Toyota's first year in the US, they only sold around 288 cars. Nissan also followed and began selling their Datsun cars in the US by 1958. Nissan sold a total of around 146 cars by 1961. These numbers are tiny compared to the hundreds and thousands of cars sold by US manufacturers like Chevrolet, Ford, and Chrysler in the same time frame. They were being stepped on by their American counterparts. Luckily, Toyota, along with the other Japanese manufacturers that followed, all had a little secret. They would aggressively learn from their mistakes. They would study all their competitors, and it paid off. By 1975, just after 18 years, Toyota was a top import brand in the US, surpassing the likes of Volkswagen. But how did they do it? What was their little secret? Well, let me introduce to you a Japanese principle called Kaizen. Kaizen means constantly improving. The core philosophy behind Kaizen is simple. You can always make or do things better, even if they seem to work well in a particular moment. This would be used by most, if not all, Japanese companies up to this day. Toyota, Nissan, Honda, and other Japanese car manufacturers would use Kaizen as their core philosophy when running their businesses. It emphasizes actively looking for problems and defects even before they happen. This was the biggest factor why Japanese cars got so reliable. They eliminated the problem even before it showed itself. Japanese car companies who used the Kaizen system often gave incentives and cash rewards to employees that found defects and corrected them. Toyota is known to practice Kaizen and is often called the Toyota way. Using the Kaizen principle also puts them in a position that puts quality and efficiency in the highest priority. The Japanese failed at the start but rose to the top. However, the roots of their success was actually because of a man named William Edwards Deming. He was sent to Japan to consult the Japanese government on how to build infrastructure back after the Second World War. Deming believed that top quality products were very important. By using simple tools, companies could easily identify the source of a quality problem and fix them as soon as possible. Sounds very Kaizen to me. But who was Edwards Deming? Who was the man behind the success of the Japanese? Deming was an American engineer, quality expert, and business consultant. I know what you're thinking though, why didn't he just help the American car companies? Well, he tried. He did try to help American car companies get better, but they were just not interested in his ideas. The Japanese, on the other hand, knew that in order to beat their American competitors, they needed Edwards Deming and his ideas. They were more than interested in working with him. It's because of his philosophy.
人間の本質が影響してる。どんなにレクチャーしたって、どんなに指導をうまくしたって、どんなに本を読ましたってダメなの。だから人間の品質管理をすべきであるというのは僕の考えなんですよ。人間の品質管理をやるべきである。で、私はこれを始めたんです。人間を含めての品質管理。それからずっとやりました。
Combine it with hard work, it would be a recipe for success. Japan would become famous for high quality products, and through decades of improvement, growth, and profitability in the manufacturing sector, Deming would become a hero in Japan and widely respected for basically engineering all of Japan's economic backbone.
Deming was so highly thought of in Japan that they named an award after him and his teachings. Japanese companies strive for quality and continuous improvement, and one of the highest honors they can receive is the Deming Prize.
Other Japanese commercial companies started using his principles as well. I mean, you can see this even up to this day with products that come from Japan, especially in cars. JDM cars that are built and sold in Japan are no doubt always better than the versions they sell overseas. This is why importing used JDM cars from the 90s and early 2000s is a growing industry. American car companies refuse to listen to him. Whether it's arrogance or mistrust towards Deming, whatever the reason was, they missed out on the biggest opportunity to improve their companies. Okay, so now we know in the 1960s, the Japanese worked on consistently improving and detail-oriented engineering and slowly started to gain a reputation for producing reliable, high-quality cars. But there was another issue. The issue that the Japanese were now facing was the fact that they weren't exactly known for their designs. What do I mean by this? For example, British cars are not known for their reliability at all, but they produce cars with elegant, beautiful, and stylistic designs like the Jaguar E-Type, Bentley Continental GT, and the Aston Martin Vanquish. Germany was widely known for producing cars with amazing performance like BMWs, Porsches, Mercedes-Benz, and Audis. And the US was famous for having innovative marketing. So what did the Japanese do? They borrowed these strong points from each of these countries and improved on their weaknesses. In the 60s and the 70s, and even now, British cars are known to have faulty and unreliable electrical systems. But the Japanese took it, corrected it, and improved it, fixing all the issues by using high quality suppliers. Japan also took ideas from the German superior mechanical designs and used them on their cars. But they would sell them cheaper than the German cars, so that the average middle-class consumer could afford them. The Japanese also adapted marketing strategies from American car makers, like getting the consumer to pay more for the same car. And this is how they took on the luxury car sector. In an attempt to get into the luxury segment of the automotive industry, Toyota created Lexus. Lexus was built with one purpose: to beat BMW and Mercedes at their own game, which they partially did. Toyota literally made a luxury car brand out of thin air and made it successful in a short amount of time. How did they beat the Germans? Of course, by undercutting the cost of German luxury cars while exceeding their quality. As a result, Lexus instantly got a huge cut of the market share, and Germany has never really come back from it. They offered a few cheaper models from the beginning, which was a smart move, of course. Offering it cheaper means more cars are sold. They then added more into their lineup, such as coupes, SUVs, sports cars. Basically, anything that the Germans did, Lexus did as well. From a reliability standpoint, Lexus was so far ahead of its competition. I mean, we all know that Lexus cars can literally do 300,000 miles easily with no issues. Also, maintenance is generally cheaper than the maintenance of German cars. However, this doesn't mean that Lexus cars don't break down. They do, but Lexus had fewer than any of its competitors. Now, this is why some Lexus cars don't depreciate much in value. Brands like Toyota, Nissan and Honda all develop manufacturing processes based on the efficiency and quality control standards of Deming. Japanese cars were ahead of their time. This was Japan's greatest strength, which would later also become their weakness. It wasn't always fireworks and celebrations in the Japanese auto industry. Even though the Japanese car makers have established a global dominance in terms of the number of cars that are sold and reliability ratings, their position is always threatened by the development of artificial intelligence, or AI. As AI gets more advanced day by day in the autonomous driving technology sector, the Japanese car makers are actually falling behind. For example, car makers like Tesla and BMW are starting to overwhelm the Japanese with their autonomous driving technology. This is because Japanese car makers are too focused on improving their engines, transmission, drivetrain components, and their manufacturing expertise. They make the same thing better and over-engineering them. As a result, this will also become their greatest weakness. They didn't focus much on the modern tech side of cars. The mindset of their competitors is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Even though German cars may not be as reliable and as well built as Japanese cars, it's guaranteed that German cars will come with tons of modern tech. So Japanese cars are reliable from a long-term perspective. But in terms of modern technology, European car makers are way ahead of them. As of March 2018, Toyota along with Denso and Aisin Seikiko established a new research development company for autonomous driving, investing almost $3 billion. But on the other hand, companies like Apple and Google have invested around $10 billion each on the R&D of autonomous driving cars. And they're not even in the car business. But despite all of that, we can all see that Japanese car makers are still trying to make their presence known to the world as a global superpower in the automotive industry. I mean, they brought back the 90s classics we all love, like the new Honda NSX, Honda Civic Type R, Toyota GR86, Nissan Z, Mazda Miata MX-5, and many more. And yes, they still come with a manual. Well, except for the A90 Supra, GTR, and NSX. And also, like I mentioned earlier, there are even rumors that there might be a new Honda/Acura Integra Type R. And it looks awesome. I'm very excited for it actually. As long as the Japanese adapt to new technology quicker, they will still have the title of dominating and taking over the world with their cars. So what about you? What do you guys think about the Japanese and their performance cars in this day and age? Are they winning or losing? Let us know in the comment section below. What's up guys? I know it took me around 2 weeks to release a new video. It's because I took a step back and studied my channel. I had to learn how to be different and to stand out in order for you guys to enjoy my videos more. And also I wanted to change up my content and speak in English. As you've noticed, I've been speaking English more in my videos now because my plan for this channel really is to reach a global audience. Basically dominate like Toyota did. There was a lot of learning and hopefully it will all pay off because nothing is more important to me than producing great quality content for you guys. Anyway, if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to let me know in the comment section below. Also, please like and share this video and subscribe to this channel so the YouTube's algorithm can promote our videos to more people so I can help and entertain more. And with that being said, thanks for watching, keep safe, and I'll see you in the next video.